And in saying that, may I take this opportunity to introduce you to Miss Elizabeth Wathuti. She's from Kenya. She is a young environmental and climate activist, founder of Green Generation, and head of campaigns at the Wangari Maathai Foundation. Put your hands together and greet Elizabeth Wathuti.
Thank you very much. We have a shared moral responsibility to ensure that this amazing planet, our common home, remains safe and habitable for present and future generations. And I have come here today because I believe that the world urgently needs your united voice and powerful leadership to help make that happen. Almost a year ago, I was invited to speak at the opening ceremony of the COP26 Climate Conference in Glasgow. At that time, the summit was being described as humanity's last best chance to avoid catastrophic climate change, and I was allocated 4 minutes in which to address world leaders directly. The responsibility of that moment weighed very heavily on me, and I had to do a lot of soul-searching about what I might say, because I did not know what there was left to say that might move world leaders to act at the scale and speed that we know is needed. In the end, I chose to use my 4 minutes with world leaders to shine a spotlight on the impact that the climate crisis is already bringing to bear across the African continent. Right now, a historic drought worsened by climate change is bringing immense suffering to millions of my fellow Kenyans and to other communities living in neighboring countries across the Horn of Africa. Earlier this year, I traveled to Wajir County in the northeastern part of my country, and there I witnessed a shocking example of the impacts of the interconnected climate, nature, and food crisis. I drove for hours down dusty roads lined with the shriveled carcasses of decimated local wildlife populations. I held livestock dying of thirst in my arms. I listened to the stories of hungry and desperate people who are losing all hope for their future. Climate-driven disasters are, of course, not only happening in Kenya. Over the last few years, deadly heat waves and wildfires have swept through Algeria. Devastating floods have taken many lives in Uganda, Nigeria, and South Africa. And we know that there is more to come. I used my speech at COP26 to share real human stories from people who are rarely given a voice in decision-making processes, and have chosen to do this again here today. Not to shock or blame anyone, but rather in the hope and with the prayer that we might truly allow ourselves to feel the immense suffering that our way of doing things is causing. Because I believe that an open heart is where the seed of true action lies within each of us. The global community has been coming together to negotiate outcomes at environmental and climate conferences for many more decades than I have been alive. And yet, we still find ourselves at the precipice of an interconnected and worsening climate and nature pollution crisis. Why are we not doing what we know we must? In my view, what is holding us back from dealing with the interconnected climate, nature, and pollution crisis is not a lack of scientific knowledge or technology. These are human problems, and the solutions to them lie in the human head, heart, and mind. I believe in our human capacity to care deeply and to act collectively. I believe in our ability to do what is right if we let ourselves feel it in our hearts. And I believe that we can absolutely find our way out of the planetary crisis we face. But to do so, we will need to change our way of thinking and start telling new stories about what is important and what is possible. And this is where I think the faith community has a vital role to play. Right now, the life-sustaining and sacred relationship between nature and humanity is not being recognized, valued, or protected. We are perpetuating an ecocidal economic system that is destroying nature faster than it can regenerate. We are not being good stewards. We are not being good planetary stewards. But it doesn't have to be this way. A future with a stable climate, clean air, clean water, and food security for all is possible. And international cooperation and solidarity is how we will achieve it. What is needed now is courageous and urgent action from each and every one of us to change course while we still can, born of compassion and respect for ourselves and all of life on earth. The global community will be convening in Egypt in November for the COP27 Climate Conference, and again in Montreal in December for the COP15 Biodiversity Conference. My urgent appeal to all of you ahead of these critical moments is, please do more to help. Help us by using your power, resources, and influence to call on world leaders, the business community, and citizens everywhere to take the climate and nature crisis seriously and act with urgency to follow through on promises that have been made before and not met. This is not just a moment for compassion, but also a moment for action and reform. We must break our deadly reliance on fossil fuels and invest massively in a clean energy future and energy access for all. We must also transform our global food systems and protect and restore the Earth's ecosystems. Countries must also raise their ambition to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and assist others to meet this challenge by mobilizing finance and resources, including a dedicated finance facility to help poor countries cope with climate-related loss and damage. What we will gain by solving the food, nature, and climate crisis together will be improved human health, security, and well-being everywhere. This is the only pathway to a healthy and dignified life that allows people to provide for themselves and their families. And it is my sincere hope that we can work together towards the kind of future that I think we all want. Thank you.